Welcome everybody to our webinar tonight that we've entitled Preparing for Life After Football. Our invited speaker tonight is Franco Costanzo. Franco has had a successful career as a professional footballer and today works as a club representative for South America at FC Basel in Switzerland. So Franco, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you for allowing me to and giving me the opportunity to talk about this problematic and this thing that is happening in the modern football, and suddenly they are starting to talk about. So it's important to know and to maybe to help a couple of players that they are running out through this stage of the career. So thank you for having me here.
No, it's great. I'm sure we're going to have a fascinating conversation, Franco. We've been talking, you and I, and preparing this for the past couple of weeks. So I'm sure we're going to touch upon some very interesting subjects and also open it up for our audience for some questions at the end. Just to introduce myself briefly, for those that may not know about myself or what we do at the Sports Business Institute Barcelona. My name is Diego Valdez. I'm the Director General at SBI. And what we do is we provide executive education for those that want to either start or advance their career, particularly in the business side of football. Now, more and more, we've been working with professional football players that undertake our programs, and of course, Franco is one of these individuals that we've been working and collaborating together, and we're going to talk more about that. So we'll have a very interesting conversation because it's a topic, as Franco said, that is very relevant. That it's something that needs to be discussed, and particularly from people that have lived it firsthand, like Franco himself. We're gonna have a conversation where we're going to touch upon some interesting subjects. But before that, I want to make sure that the sound is coming through for you guys. So what I'd like you to do is in the chat box, if you can go ahead and type in the city where you're connecting from or the country where you're connecting from, and just type, wherever you're coming from, and then we'll know that the sound is coming through. So we have Georg from Ipswich. Nice to see you, Georg. All right, so we have sound coming through correctly. So yeah, feel free to type in the chat box. Switzerland, excellent. Leo, Jordi, Jamaica from Tori. Okay, excellent. London from Laura. Laura says London. Warren from South Africa. Okay, so a couple people from London, South Africa, Berlin. Excellent. So nice audience from around the world as per usual with these webinars. Right, so Franco, let's begin our conversation tonight, and perhaps we can begin by you telling us about your professional career. So tell us where you started, what were the clubs that you've played in, and just a little bit about your career.
Okay, so I started to play football with my brother, my older brother, following him to different clubs and starting to play as just for fun with friends like everybody does. I'm from Argentina, so in Argentina, football is like a religion. So you play in the streets, you play at school, you play with, I don't know, with sometimes balls made from sockets. So that's really fun, and we are playing every day. So I started for a really young age. And at the age of 15, I'm from the middle of Argentina, a small town called Rio Cuarto. It's 700 kilometers away from Buenos Aires, the main city in Argentina, and most of the clubs, professional clubs, are from Buenos Aires. So I was a scout at that moment, and so I went to the River Plate Academy at the age of 15. So at that age, it was also like an adventure for me. It was not that I was planning to become a football player, a professional football player. I just wanted to prove myself if I was able to play at that level. So it was an incredible experience. I was living at inside the academy of River, and I have like I don't know, other 50 young guys like me from all over Argentina. So, and everybody was trying to develop themselves as a professional football player, because it's a dream come true for somehow to explain it in or put it in words. So of course it's not easy at the beginning, you know, being away from the family and at that age, and you're starting to realize that that this is coming, you know, to a professional way. And I was lucky because I was in the national teams, so Argentinian under 17, under 20. I played South American tournament. I played the World Cup under 17 and under 20. And then I realized that at the age of 18, I signed my first contract as a professional football player. And then you are involved, you know, this world. Suddenly, you know, you're professional. So and nobody give you a lot of input to become, you know, at that age, and to say, okay, you have to do this and you have to do that. It's like you are discovering yourself at a really young age, that you have a lot of um, pressure, and everybody's waiting for you and expecting you to perform every weekend at the top level. Maybe they don't realize that you are only 18, 19, 20 years old. So well, this is how life is for a professional football player at that age. So I played in River Plate 10 years. At the age of 25, I went to Deportivo Alavés in Spain. This was my first adventure in Europe, playing in La Liga. It was an incredible year for me. It was a great experience. Then I was only 1 year there, and I had the chance to change because I had a really nice offer from Basel. This is a club from Switzerland, and the club I'm working today. And for me, it was also like an adventure. It was really a change of culture. I took it that way. I had the opportunity to learn a language. I had the opportunity to learn and to live in a completely different culture. And for me, that's also that football gives you this kind of opportunities to live, you know, to live different experiences. I was 5 years in Basel. It was really a successful period here in the club. We won a couple of trophies. Also, we played Champions League 2 times. This is a huge thing for the club and the people here in Switzerland. After these 5 years, I went to Olympiacos in Greece. There I play only 1 year because I signed a contract for 3 years, but only stay 1. It was not as good as I expected this experience. So I returned to Argentina for 1 year. I didn't play because I thought that I was like a kind of burnout with football. So I had, for saying in somehow, it's why I retired 2 times during my career. So I spent 1 year in Argentina without playing, and then I received an offer from Chile, from Universidad Católica, and that was an incredible experience, because I played the last 5 years of my career in Chile, and knowing and accepting that this was the last step of my professional career. So I enjoyed a lot, and that Universidad Católica opened me the doors to play these last years, and I really appreciate that, and I really enjoy football on that club. So this is more or less my career. So like many football players, they are moving for many clubs, from one club to another, and maybe from one country to another. And this is, I think, this is the most extraordinary thing when you have this chance to move and know many people in different countries and different cultures, and football gives you the opportunity to do that.
And on this point, Franco, how hard was it for you to move to Europe? Obviously, you're from Argentina, and it's a big step to go to a different continent, move away from what you're used to. So you went to Spain initially, but tell us a little bit about that. Was it challenging for you, or was it easy for you to adapt?
Well, imagine from Argentinian players moving to Spain is the easiest path. So same language, same, more or less the same culture, and the food is also the same, and it's a bit, it's the easiest step. The hardest one was from Spain to Switzerland. So Switzerland is a completely different, not a different world, but the culture is completely different as Latin Americans. So this was a bit of a challenge. Also the language, the Schweizerdeutsch is really, really difficult. So it was also a challenge to learn it. But it's like I said before, for me, it was just like taking these opportunities like an adventure, and to really feel and live inside other cultures. It was incredible.
Right. Now, let's move on to the next subject that we can talk about. And of course, it's after you end your career, life after football. So tell us a little bit more about your experience. You said you took a year off because you were burned out, and you sort of retired, but then came back and played for another 4 years in Chile. And then obviously you decided to take your career to the next level because your playing days were over. So tell us a little bit about the challenges. I know you mentioned as well that this is sort of a taboo subject that is not talked about a lot. So can you expand on that?
Yes, well, as we were talking, Diego, I realized, that talking about retire inside the dressing room is a bit of a kind of taboo. Nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to, I don't know, to think about what coming next. Somehow, I think mainly because if you're starting to talk about retirement inside the dressing room, everybody's saying, okay, he's thinking more on what he's doing after his career than what is happening in the next game against his opponent. So this is something that is really, really normal and common inside the dressing rooms, and it's something that I think this should change, because I'm completely convinced if football players are starting to realize and thinking about what's happening next, and what or trying to look or search for some kind of interest in or what things they like, what things they don't like, to start thinking about what I'm going to do next, So during my football career, this was really, nobody talk about that. And I think now players are a bit open to start talking and to start thinking about what is coming next. And so I think it's something good. I think it's something that players need to focus on during, not only the last years of their career. So as soon as they start, as soon as they will be prepared to take this decision, and so it's something that they started to. It's a process to know themselves of what they want to do, what they like or what they don't like.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because you were just talking before about the statistics that you read recently from Argentina, that about what is it, 1 or 3% of the youngsters that are in the academies actually make it to professional football and to the first team. So how much of a challenge is it for the player's identity to move away from just being a football player? Because of course, especially at that age when you're young and you want to make the first team, if you're deemed to be focusing on something else, is what you said. No, it's as though you're moving away from that objective. But in reality, as you're just telling us, it's about broadening that scope professionally, so that you're prepared beyond just being, sort of unidimensionally thinking about football. No.
Exactly, exactly. So I think it's really important that at that age, you are not preparing only football players. You are preparing persons to become really, I don't know, to adapt in case the plan A is not working. So they have to have a plan B. So you have to train these kids, but you have to let them know that this is not the only chance in life. So it's really important at that age to start thinking, or to give some topics to these kids and saying, okay, do you like this? Do you like that? Or maybe this is not the only way. It's not the only path, to being successful in life. I think this is also something that should change. And I think in Argentina, as you said, is only 1 to 3% of the kids, they are becoming professionals. So this is incredible low percentage. So what is happening with all the other guys that they are not playing professional football? This is a big problem. So clubs needs to take care of this subject and needs to give opportunities also to the guys that they are not playing professional.
And when should a player begin thinking about this? Because obviously, as you said, you're focused on your career. So when should players begin thinking about this? And tell us about your experience as to what you were thinking when you knew that at some point your career was going to end.
I think as soon as possible, the players start thinking not about retiring, but what they like or what they don't like. So as a hobby, it can start as I don't know, something that you read. But I think it's really good for players also trying to not focus only in football 24 hours a day. Of course, it's a job. It's really important to be in focus and concentrate during the games. But then after this, you train in the morning. Normally in the afternoons, they are free, so you have time to think and to start searching for other hobbies on things that maybe you like. So I think as soon as possible, a player start or realize that I don't know, or discover themselves, okay, I like this will be much easier to play or to play the last years of the career. So they say, okay, I know I like this. I don't care if this is the last contract or the last 2 years that I play, because I know, or I focus myself doing this or doing that. So this is something that I think I know, or my experience was like this. So I was always trying to prepare myself for what is coming next.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, and we're going to touch upon education a little bit later on, but in your case particularly, education played a big role, right? Because you started looking at the management side of football, and you discovered a way to see something beyond the pitch, no?
Yeah, actually, I have my goalkeeping brand. That this started like a hobby, and when I was playing my last years of my career in Chile, I started my own brand of goalkeeping gloves, and I realized suddenly this started growing. So from being a hobby to being a small company, and I was doing everything with my wife. And then I realized I really need to have more knowledge in, I don't know, financing or marketing or things like this. So I discovered this program, this diplomat in Chile that it calls sport management, and it's given by CS University and FIFA. So from there, I start to know a lot of different topics that I really didn't know at that moment. For instance, marketing, ticketing, financing, or a lot of things that opens me the head in somehow to realize that, okay, this is something that I really want to keep learning. So this was more or less the path that I took.
Okay, interesting. And like I said, we'll touch upon education a little bit later. Now, another important factor to talk about, particularly with professional footballers, is the values, the skills, the competencies that you learn or that you acquire while you're playing, which of course are very valid and are very much transferable to the business world or the corporate world or the professional world. So tell us a little bit more from your experience. What were some of those skills, some of those values that you were able to extract from sport and football?
Yeah. Yeah, I think football gives you a lot of values in terms of groups, in terms of that a group is even more important than an individual, and gives you a lot of how you say that, gives you a lot of that. If you are not efforts yourself, you have no reward. So give you a lot of things, but in somehow, in the other hand, it's really an individual sport because you are always fighting against your teammate. I mean, it's not a bad thing, you know, but you are always competing against someone since you start. And it's, as an academy player with 15 years, you say, okay, at the end of the season, if you didn't perform in the correct way, the coach come and said, okay, I have 2 or 3 guys like you waiting, you know, to play in your position, so you have to go. So you are growing during this period of time, and you are creating like a shield, you know, that covers you, and you are trying to protect yourself from the outside, you know, insights, like, I don't know, can be the fans, the journalists, or the managers, or different people. So it's a bit lonely at some point, but also when you are playing, you know, when you are performing as a team, it doesn't matter what happened, you know, or if you are competing with this guy next to you, but it's like at that moment, everybody's together, you know, that is a team, and no matter what happened, you know, you're playing and pushing always to the same side. And I think this is something really good, you know, to give this input to different, you know, people that is not, you know, that is not every day, you know, under pressure, and they are not every day, you know, talking about what you are doing every week. You know, you're having always like a test, you know. It's like not maybe in the university or when in a normal or regular job, you have, I don't know, a project that, I don't know, for 3, 4, 5 months, and at the end of this, you have, you know, someone is talking with you and evaluating you as if you did wrong or bad, or you have to change things. In football, it's every game, and it's maybe once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week. You know, you have to perform, so you have this pressure to perform always on the good way. So that's something that professional sports, we are used to do that, but maybe the in the normal world, in the normal working day, the people is not, they don't realize that pressure that professional sports have.
And do you notice that now, like, because you're obviously now on the other side and you're in the business side, do you notice a difference between those athletes that have this resilience and that dealt with this pressure, that perhaps you don't see as much on the other side. Is this something you notice sometimes, that it can be very, very a big advantage for athletes to transfer these skills?
Completely. There is a big asset, and I think a lot of companies now, they are trying to search, to these inputs and try to. There are a lot of, because you have to be a really good communicator, or also to give this, knowledge, and to give and to tell your experience to people on a company, for example. So I think this is kind of advantage that professional sports a professional sport gives you, to the players, because it's not easy to have this pressure, not easy to perform every weekend under pressure. So this is something that we can share and have a lot of value for the companies.
Mm-hmm. I know Nike. I mean, we did some work with Nike a while back ago, and I know it's a company that they really value to hire as their employees athletes at any level. Obviously, if they've been professional, it's a big asset, as you said. But even people that perform sport, because they know that the values and the skills that you earn or that you acquire with sport are very valuable. That can be used in in a corporate environment, right? So interesting to.
Yeah. Also, you have on the other hand, you have people that maybe when you retire from being a professional football player, they said, okay, and you are searching for a regular job. They said, hey, you don't have experience. I said, wait, maybe I don't have the experience, selling something, like you, but I have a lot of experience doing another things that you can take profit of that. So this is something that it have to change also, because they say, okay, maybe you are not experienced enough in some point. That is true, but you have a lot of experience on a lot of things, that maybe a regular worker they don't have. So this is also happening, and it's really common when many football players end their career and trying to look for a job. They say, hey, but you don't have experience. But the experience comes from the other side,
Yeah. Well, we noticed that at SBI, because in fact we work with a lot of professional footballers that do our programs, and even in a micro ecosystem like a program, a master's degree or whatever, where you have professional players and people from other corporate industries and different backgrounds, you notice that the insight that is shared from from professional athletes is super valuable, because, as you said, it's experience that us that didn't go inside a dressing room, that didn't have that that discipline or that pressure that footballers had day in, day out, comes out in these discussions. So very interesting to hear that. Now, Franco, tell us about your role at FC Basel today, because you're working for the club. So can you tell us, how did you start working for the club, and what does your current role entail?
Well, when I finished my diploma in Chile, I realized that maybe I had a chance to work in the club, because I thought about being a representative person in South America for the club, because many clubs in Europe doesn't have the structure or doesn't have the money to invest in huge structures that allows them to try to find the best deals or try to connect with the right people. And I had these things because I played in Basel for many years. I'm from Argentina and play in Chile, so I have a huge network that it can use it, in a good way and in a proper way for the club. So I present a project to the club, saying that I really want to be this person, to be in touch with the clubs and the sporting directors in South America, because there was some cases that say, okay, for instance, the club trying to buy a player for a club in South America, and they didn't have the access to the right manager or the access directly to the club. So they have to be involved many intermediaries, and at the end the price went really up, and the transfer at the end of the day it couldn't work. So it was a lot of, in terms of time and losing money. So I'm the guy in between, to try to connect these two dots, and being, the person in contact with both clubs. Also, another part of the project was that maybe a lot of clubs, they are investing a lot of money in buying a player, but then they are not giving them the right, how you say, the right person. They are not giving the right person to allow them to adapt as soon as possible. So normally in football they say, okay, between 6 months, 8 months, a South American player needs to be really fit and comfortable and adapt to the new club and city. And I'm saying, if you are wasting, no, not wasting, if you are putting a lot of money, in buying a player, and you are because if you have this lack of a structure in giving the player the right I don't know, atmosphere, or create the right how do you say that,
environment, or
the right environment, this player will not perform, and you as a club, you cannot wait 6-8 months, to a player to perform, because you are investing a lot of money. So this was another part of the project. So I'm the person, in touch with the players when they arrive, to give them the right, the right input, and try to connect them to, I don't know, in case they have family, to the doctors, to the, I don't know, kindergarten or whatever. So this is another part. And the other thing is that we in Basel, we have a really rich story as a club, that they are like that we are like a trampoline for players, from South America, or maybe from Africa, from players that maybe they are not huge stars at that moment that come here, but Basel is a club that make this, trampoline, effects to make a bigger step. We have a lot of cases that players that they are really huge stars. Case on, I don't know, maybe it's Mohamed Salah and Granit Xhaka, Shaqiri. There are a lot of players that they start their careers here in Basel and make this step. So this is well known in most of Europe, but in South America nobody knows that. So I'm the guy also, trying to tell our story, our successful story, and saying that maybe we are the not only a club in Switzerland, we are also, an opportunity for the player to develop and make the next step in Europe.
Right. And for you, this transition has been easy now. Obviously, you're working at the club, but on the other side, so you're looking at it from not as a player, but you're more on the corporate side, if you will. Even though it's very much linked to the sporting side, you're still looking at other areas of the business. So was it a difficult transition for you, or you feel you were prepared for this role, given what you told us before about the education and your brand that you had built?
Yeah, I was kind of prepared, because I really knew what I like, and I'm doing something that I really liked. Also, I started this master in football business, because I know I feel that I still have to learn a lot of things about this industry. So I really like to learn every day, and I really like to read. I'm really a person who is not always, or trying to. I'm always trying to learn something new. So of course, it's a completely different role from being a football player to being inside the field, and to be outside the field. But this is also helps to understand a lot of situations that maybe in the clubs there are happening. A lot of situations that if you know how the player thinks, if you know how to connect and communicate with them, things are much easier.
Right, right. By the way, that's Roger Federer's club, no? Have you ever met him?
Yeah, I met him many times. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's really a big fan of Basel. So
yeah.
every time he's in the city, he's on the stadium.
Ah, okay. And have you ever played him in tennis?
No, I never had a chance.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good. Now, I guess we can move on and just go back to what you were saying before and highlight some of these points. So there's active players now that perhaps are thinking, well, not sure what I'm going to do with my career. Let's talk about some, some tips. I know you mentioned this already, but what would be some things that are important for players to consider now? And you said yourself that you're a person that likes to develop yourself and wants to grow as an individual. So how can players begin to think about this, as they move forward with their career, and just highlighting some of the points you mentioned before, just to
I think as soon as they start thinking about what they like and what they don't like. For instance, in my personal case, I always said I didn't want to be or to become a coach, because I think it's not something that goes or on the way that I want to be with my family, and being a coach is really a lonely thing and a really difficult thing. So from the very beginning, I knew that being a coach was not something that I want. So as soon as they start realizing what they like and what they don't like, it's becoming easier, And in order to do that, it's really good to start doing this kind of courses or diplomas or things that they have a lot of inputs from some different tasks. For instance, marketing, ticketing, financing, or things like that maybe you are not becoming a professional in each subject, but they gives you and opens you the mind to think in different things, and not only football. And the other thing is that they have to take the retirement as a next step. It's not that the career is finished. It's like you're continuing, your career, and you have a lot of new challenges. It's like a continuation of the career, but on a new stage of your life. So it's not the end of the world. Of course, it's not easy, because it's something that you are doing since, I don't know, 20-25 years, doing the same, every day, the same routine. So it's not easy, but as soon as you realize what you like and what you don't like, it's becoming easier, and you maybe can enjoy the last years of the career and not suffering them.
Right. Now, what about the challenge? Because, of course, professional footballers have obviously dedicated their whole life to performance, to playing on the pitch, to being the best in the sport. And sometimes that's meant leaving education to the side, or not being as keen, perhaps, to study. And this is not, of course, a blanket statement, and it's a generalization, but there's many people that, of course, like yourself. But do you see that this can be a challenge, that sometimes education has not been a priority, and then once you start thinking about it, it can be a bit overwhelming for players?
Yeah, I think when you're a player, you are not thinking in study, or you're not thinking maybe in what is coming next, and that's a big problem, because then you realize you are playing your last year, you are not prolonging the contract, and you say, oh, why should I do now? But also it's never too late to start
right
to start learning or to start, with a different topic of your life. So I think, and I repeat this because for me it's important. As soon as you start, thinking about what is coming next, it will be much easier to play your last years because you will be much prepared and more secure about what is coming next. So I think this is something that has to be, in every football player mind during the career.
Right, right. Now, you were mentioning before that there's some very clear pathways for professional footballers once they finish their career on the pitch, and you talked about either being a manager or perhaps a scout or a sporting director or journalist. But there's more beyond that, right? There's, as you said, there's opportunities in marketing, there's opportunities in finance and operations. So, how do you think can be a good way to introduce players to see beyond the typical pathways that you can see, from being a professional player? What would you say is the key there to ensure that players see other opportunities, whether it's inside football or even beyond?
Yeah, I think this kind of courses that they are showing you a big prospect of the industry of football, like marketing, ticketing, I don't know, different type of venues or how to manage these venues, and and it's like I said before, it's not that you are becoming a professional on this, but this gives you the opportunity to open your mind and saying, okay, I'm focusing more in the aspect of marketing because I really love this task. So I will continue, this path. Or they say, okay, I will continue, learning about finance of the club. So this kind of things that they are really showing you the industry of sports gives you the opportunity to keep learning the tasks you really like.
Right, right. And that's a good segue for our final point, which is education, right? And you yourself, you've mentioned that it's always been something that you've been passionate about. You've always wanted to improve yourself and grow. And even now, you're doing the master in football business and management with us at the Sports Business Institute Barcelona, and you're doing it online. So tell us a little bit about your experience doing this master's program and what have you gained from it?
Yeah, I think there are many topics that I have the inquiry to keep learning about. So when I was searching for something that I could use, on my career, and I discovered the Sport Business Institute and the master. I said, okay, this is a great opportunity to continue, learning about the industry, because the other diploma I did, it was just more like sports management. So you have a lot of tasks that they are really good, but I really want to focus on football, and the opportunity you have in the master is huge, because you are always learning from professionals that they are already working many years on different clubs. So this gives you, the chance to be in touch and to contact with people that they are inside the football industry. And I think this is perfect, so to continue learning and to continue, progressing on the career I want to make.
Right, right. No, this is interesting because, as you said, there's opportunities to focus, to specialize in different areas, but getting a broad perspective, and we see this often with professional footballers that undertake our program, and it's nice to see that that it can open their mind, and as you said, it can be a good way to mix their playing background with and those skills that we talked about before, and leveraging more to the corporate, the business side of the game, which in many cases would benefit from having, professional footballers in these decision-making and top positions, because obviously they understand the game.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that we were also talking about, that we are saying, okay, maybe before, years before, a lot of players that play many years for a club, they had the opportunity to work for this club because they were legends there, and with that, it was all that they need, And I think now it's changing. And if you are not preparing yourself, if you are not, learning, if you are not really becoming a professional in the term of, I don't know, having knowledge of a lot of tasks that is happening in the industry, you are not having this opportunity just for being being a legend of the club. And on the opposite side, many years ago, nobody that didn't play football was allowed to work for a club or to enter in a dressing room, because they say, okay, you didn't play football, what are you doing here? You don't know nothing about this. And now that is changing as well. So people need to prepare, and people need to gain knowledge, and to being, focuses in what is happening in the industry, because it's changing really fast, and everybody needs to be, really professional in the clubs and the structures today. So this is something that is also important.
No, very interesting to hear your perspective, Franco, on all these subjects, and to hear your experience, and also the input or the advice or the tips that you've been able to share based on your own journey and your own experience, both playing and then moving on beyond beyond the pitch and having your career after the game. So it's been a very insightful conversation. What we can do at this moment, we can open it up for some questions from our audience to see if they have anything that they'd like to ask you particularly. In the meantime, I'll just mention the master that Franco is undertaking with us now. It's Master in Football Business and Management, which is an 8-month online program that we conclude with a couple of days in Barcelona. Obviously, this time it's COVID pending, but it's an opportunity to acquire skills, knowledge on the different areas of the business side of football. Obviously, a big part of it is being very closely linked to the industry and having relationships with some of these organizations that you see here on screen. And like I said before, we've been very fortunate that a lot of professional footballers, athletes, have entrusted us with their training. Here you see Wes Morgan, who was the captain of Leicester City Football Club, finished the Masters with us a couple of years ago. So it's nice to see that that we are having more opportunities to have professional athletes undertake these programs, because obviously they develop themselves, but we grow as well from their experience and their knowledge. As Franco was saying, that it's invaluable when you're inside a football club and in a dressing room, with the discipline, with the pressure that you need to deal with as an athlete. Having that type of cohort, mixing players, corporates, and other professionals, goes a long way. So anyway, if you want to learn more about that, check out our website at sbibarcelona.com. There's more information about the Masters program. At this stage, let's turn it over for some questions from our audience. So I see we have Suzekile. What I'm going to do, Suzekile, is I'm going to try and get you to ask the question yourself, and unmute yourself, and unmute your mic. So let me find you here. Hopefully I can find you and we can do this with the live. I think we got you here. Okay, Suzekile. So I'm going to unmute your microphone, and if you have a question, just let us know. All right. So go ahead. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, Diego.
Good evening.
And Franco, how are you?
Hello, Suzekile. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Suzekile from South Africa. I do like to know about the Master in Football. Like, what qualification or criteria do you need to qualify for the course? Because I'm currently doing diploma in sport management in South Africa.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm just gonna mute you again, just to avoid the echo, Suzekile. But The program is, as I said, delivered online. It takes months, and the requirement is that you have a bachelor's degree. However, we do case-by-case applications because, like Franco was saying, we have professional footballers that undertake the program, and depending on what your experience may be in the industry, there are opportunities for you to join as well without necessarily having that bachelor's degree. So depending on your particular profile, the best thing is to apply, and then we will obviously evaluate, and there's a committee that looks at all the applications. But yeah, something to think about. It's not 100% requirement if you have other professional experience. So if you have a question regarding the life after football or anything else, feel free to share it, and we'll be happy to engage with you.
So, okay, I do like to ask to Franco, like, what advice would he give a current player now to go to school or to open a business or to invest money? Like, I would like to know about that, because I'm also like volunteering as a coach, so I do like to advise my players.
Yeah, so Sekile, I think the better option is to if you want to invest in something, first you need to know and to understand what you are investing in. So for that reason, I said it's always better to study and to learn, and after that, if you know really and you are becoming a person who knows in what you are putting your money, then you can invest. But first, I think the studies and to become, and to get the knowledge you need is the right option.
Okay, Diego, so I just would like to go back to you now. So I'm doing a sport management diploma in South Africa. It's a diploma. So it's a 3 years, and I'm gonna do advanced diploma next year. So can I qualify, because I don't have any relevant experience in football, or I do like to so that I can also get some network, because I do like to relocate to get jobs somewhere out overseas.
Yeah, no, I mean, with the experience that you mentioned, you would qualify. Obviously, there's a competitive selection process that we start early on. What we always encourage people who are interested in this degree is to apply early, because normally what happens is if you apply early, we make a decision based on your candidature, and there's less competition. The closer you are to the starting date, usually what happens is there's less spots available, and it becomes much more competitive. So that's normally what we suggest, that if you are interested, send your application. It's a no risk application, because if you are declined for any reason, you are refunded the application fee as well. So that's what I would say, that just send us, and if you want to have a more in-depth conversation, I'll leave my email in the chat, and you can send me an email, and we can have a more in-depth chat, so we know more about your background and see what you're looking to do, and find out if this may be the program that that fits your aspirations. All right.
Okay, thank you, Diego. So yeah, you can give me your email so that you can chat, or you can just, or I'm gonna chat on you, because I follow you on Instagram. Can you follow back so that you can chat?
Perfect. We'll take the conversation forward. Excellent. Well, thank you for your question, Sekile.
Thank you.
Right. So I see we have another question from Leo Avery. So Leo also did a program with us. He's actually living in Switzerland as well. So Leo, let me find you and bring you up with your microphone. So Leo, always a pleasure to see you, or see you virtually. So welcome.
Thank you, Diego. Yeah, good to see you. And Franco, thank you very much. This wasn't actually my question, but probably Diego, I think, wanted to ask you a question about getting a game of tennis with Roger Federer. I think that's what he was probably angling for earlier. But no, Franco, yeah, I'm down the road in Lausanne, so thanks very much for your time. My question was actually going to be, given what you know now, and especially what you said about the reaction within dressing rooms when a player might try to start discussing life after football, doing education, qualifications, things like that. do you see that perhaps clubs should take more of a responsibility in that to perhaps change the culture within dressing rooms, and in particular, what's Basel doing to try and help that? And are you involved in anything either with the club or outside of the club beyond obviously talking to the likes of us this evening?
Yeah, Leo, I think definitely the clubs has to be more involved in what happening after, the career, and not only in the professional level, also in terms of the young divisions. Like I said before, in Argentina, for instance, only the 1%, between 1 and 3% of the players, they are becoming professionals. But I'm completely sure that maybe in Switzerland or any country is more or less the same percentage. So what is happening to these young guys, that they are putting a lot of efforts and creating a lot of expectations from the families themselves, and then they realize they are not able to play as a professional football player. So I think the clubs should take a huge responsibility about this topic, and being a platform to allow them or to present them different options to keep going, or to give them the chance to think in another way, not only about football.
And is Basel doing, are you aware of anything Basel's doing to help support players?
Basel has an agreement in the young divisions with a school here in Basel. So every player is going to school, and they have different topics in terms of when they are finishing the schooling here in Switzerland, they given the chance to work in different kind of companies inside the region, to allow them to have another experience, not only in football, also to make like a diplomat in another area outside football. So yeah, they're having like a concept to somehow protect these players, that they are not reaching professional career.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
Always a pleasure to engage with you. Look forward to catching up, and thanks for your input and your questions. And we'll try and see if Franco can organize a tennis match with Roger, but I don't know. It's difficult. So take care, Leo. All the best.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye, Leo.
Right. So maybe we'll take 1 or 2 more questions, and I see Paul Cox has a question. So Paul, let me try and unmute you. There we go. So Paul, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Franco, my question is, it kind of plays into the previous one, about clubs helping players. I'm in SBI's player intermediary, the player agent program for the certificate program. And so I'm a little bit curious, what do you think players expect from their agents in terms of preparing them for life after football?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's like life. You have good managers, you have good doctors, and you have bad doctors. You have good managers and bad managers. I think most of them, or the new generation of managers will start, sharing this, or will start communicating on a better way than the old ones. I don't know, I try to explain myself better, but I think in the old times, the less the players know, the less the players know about the money they have, about the opportunities they have, the better was for the managers, because they could, take in and doing things at the back of the players. Now, I think our generation, the guys like you or me, that they are retired, trying to look for a different path, we are completely in disagree with that, and we are trying to take the relationship with the players in a completely different way. So I think players now, what they need is someone who open the eyes, and someone who's saying, okay, I don't have to take, or book a ticket or book a hotel for you. You can do it yourself, because this is something that you have to learn. Otherwise, players, they like to live inside this bubble that they are not doing nothing. And at the end of the day, they realize that when they are stopping their careers and stop to play football, many of these managers that they solve a lot of problems, they are out and they have nothing, and they realize that they know how to live, they don't know how to take a plane, or they don't know how to take a reservation in a restaurant, for instance. So I think the relationship that players need in now is something that you have to share with them everything, and you have to be in touch with them, but not solving all the problems. So giving them the opportunity to resolve things and to have a knowledge of what they have and how to protect themselves, for people that are trying to take advantage of them.
Bye. Okay, gracias. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. See you next Monday.
Cheers.
Cheers. Right, so we have Alex as well, who has a question. So Alex, I'm going to bring you on. Can you hear us?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Franco. Very interesting, very insightful, and I think a very honest presentation. My question is, do you think that FIFA has also a responsibility in that? Let's say, would you assume that FIFA should probably do seminars for players? And the follow-up through that would be, do you think that there is a certain age from which on players should really focus on these things?
Yeah, I think, Alex, FIFA definitely, like clubs, should be more involved in what happened, after the career, because we are part of a big industry, and everybody is enjoying when the football players are performing, and everybody is cheering them, and everybody is behind them. But the day they stop playing, it's like nobody's there. And FIFA is also they have to be more aware of what is happening, and saying that, okay, here we have a huge opportunity to be more in touch with the players, and to be more, I don't know, to help them, to restart, the career, or to prolong the career, or to give them opportunities, to develop in some other topic. So definitely, I think FIFA needs to do something. I really don't know if they are doing something now or not, but definitely they have to be a kind of program to these players, to give the opportunity to do something else. And at what age? I think as soon as possible, a player start preparing themselves for the day they have to stop the career, the better it is.
And do you think that there is a bigger need of, for example, organizations like Players or Player for Player, for example, which Emil Heskey started in England, where other players, former players, help players which are in this certain situation right now?
Yeah, definitely. In South America, there are also organizations that are trying to let the people know what is happening, and this problem that many players suffer after the retirement. And it's not about how much money they have. Of course, this help, but there are a lot of players that they want a lot of money, but they are depressed at the third year of after stopping players. So this is a huge problematic in this aspect, and I think when more people is aware of this, or more organizations are aware of what is happening, the better it is, and the better for the players that are playing today and they have to retire in a couple of years.
And perhaps the last question concerning that, from your feeling, how many % of your former teammates are struggling or have been struggling with the same problems?
Most of them. I'm not saying problems in terms of economic problems, but most of them, and even myself, we struggle because it's not easy to stop doing something that you did from the last 10, no, not 10, 20 or 25 years of your life. It's just a routine that you do every weekend, or maybe two times a week, that you're out of your house and you're in a hotel and you're traveling and you're training every day, and suddenly you have to stop doing that. So it's really, really complicated. And most of the players, it doesn't matter in which club they played or the economic background, and it doesn't matter. Most of them, for not saying every player, after stopping play, they struggle, and they have to realize, or they have to find themselves in another position, and this is something really, really not easy to make.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Really interesting questions. So thank you for that intervention to come and engage with us. So we'll do one last question, and I know there's a few others, and we won't be able to get to them because of time constraints. But I see Jordi Quintanilla had a question as well. So Jordi, let's bring you on, and with that, we'll have our last question for the night. So Jordi, can you hear us?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you. Buenas tardes, buenas noches a todos. Franco, really interesting conversation. I am currently actually playing in St. Gallen, FC St. Gallen in First Division Switzerland. And I also had the opportunity to play in MLS, Kansas City. And actually my question was a little bit related with the previous one. What do you think about the American education? Because when I was playing there, I saw a lot of players already graduated and also playing in MLS, so being professional. So I know it's really, really difficult to apply it here in Europe, but what do you think? Could it be possible to apply it here in Europe, or in what terms could be possible? Actually, thank you.
Hi, Jordi. How are you? I know you very well. Don't worry. So, yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, last year I went to Washington because I did some kind of courses, and I realized that football in America it's really huge, and I didn't knew that before. So, but the structure they have is completely different at South America or even in Europe, because the most of the players, they started playing in an academy, and the main objective is to to receive how do you call a beca?
Scholarship.
A scholarship, yeah, sorry, a scholarship in a university. So the main subject for these kids is to gain a scholarship to play for a university, and and make a career as a doctor or an architect or something like this. All of the clubs, the clubs in MLS, most of them, they don't have like an academy, for these kids, So the structure of the football in America is completely different. But the question you make is really, really a good question, and I think maybe should work definitely, because if we focus more in a player who can study, who can think, who can understand different situations, I'm convinced that this player will perform much better. A player who think, a player who realize, a different situation is a player who perform better. So for me, it's a really good idea, and I think I'm convinced it should work.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, Franco. Hasta pronto.
Thank you, Jordi. Jordi, you
Ciao,
work with
Jordi.
Stephanie Molina, right?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So excellent. Great to have you here online, Jordi. So un saludo. Estamos en
Saludos.
contacto. Thank you. Right.
Chao,
So
Jordi. Esté muy bien.
it's been a great conversation, Franco. We've touched upon a lot of interesting topics. I think our audience tonight was able to take away some very interesting, points based on not only your own personal trajectory, your career, but also what you've seen in the industry and what are some areas that that need to improve, and that we all have a responsibility, whether we're in education or whether we're in club side or governing body side, or it's about making sure that that next step for professional athletes, and in this case football players, becomes more of a clear pathway. So I think we've learned a lot from you tonight, Franco. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you to the audience to being there and to allowing me to present my experience, and hopefully we gave some topics to some players to start thinking about what is coming next, and well, thank you very much, and we keep in touch.
Let's keep in touch. I see that we had some more questions from our audience, and just in the sake of trying to keep things tight with our schedule, I've left our email address info@sbibarcelona.com. If you have more questions about this subject, feel free to send them there. We'll pass them on to Franco, and we'll get back to you. And for Alfredo and Bobby, who are part of the Masters program, maybe you can type your questions in our personal chat that we have, our WhatsApp group, and Franco can address them there. So to everybody here tonight, thank you for participating. Thank you for being part of this webinar. We hope to engage with you very soon. If you want to know more about the Master in Football and Business and Management that we run at SBI, feel free to get in touch with us. We'll be more than happy to tell you more about what we do and how we may be able to help you in your next step. So thanks again, Franco. Look forward to continuing our chats, and yeah, all the best.
Okay, Diego. Thank you very much. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.